We are on the air.
All right. Sorry for the delay. This is the Beach Advisory Committee, and we do have a quorum. Kate, the minutes that,
We have minutes that have not yet been approved. We'd love to see them approved tonight. They are from the November 19th meeting, which were, the February 4th meeting, and the
April 24th.
April 24th meeting. The March 26th meeting was not officially a meeting because we did not have a quorum.
Right.
So we have no minutes from that.
All right.
So they've all been.
Sorry for the
does everybody
delay.
have extra
This
copies
is the
if
Beach
somebody
Advisory Committee.
didn't have a chance, didn't get them or
And
something.
we do have a quorum. Let's do the first one, November 19th. Do I have a motion? The minutes that,
We
Move
have
approval.
minutes that
Second.
have not yet
All
been
in favor?
approved. I hope to see them approved tonight.
opposed?
They are from the November 19th meeting,
February 4th,
the February 4th meeting,
that was a regular meeting.
and the
April 24th.
April 24th.
Move we accept.
The March 26th
Second.
meeting was not officially a meeting because we did not have
All
a
in favor?
quorum, so we have no minutes for that.
Opposed?
So they've all been.
And then we had
somebody- I have extra
the
copies if somebody didn't have a chance.
9 o'clock
didn't get them or
meeting
something.
on April 24th. Let's do the first one, November 19th. I have a motion. Piping Plover intern,
Move approval. Second.
and I believe
All in
we
favor?
certainly had a quorum there.
Yes,
I have
we
a
did.
motion.
Yes.
We did.
So move.
February 4th. All in favor?
I,
That was a regular meeting. All right.
Move we accept.
The
Second.
election for new members was this spring, and it's different from balloting elections where you come in and vote in the polls. 9 o'clock meeting on the beachfront owner who was elected or re-elected is Joanne Guston. And a new member Jennifer Wasserman. And Jennifer is out of the country, so she's not at the meeting, and I assume she'll be at our meeting in July.
You said, I'm
Election
sorry,
for
Richard,
new
you said it was her
members
first
was,
excused
this
absence?
spring, and it's different from balloting. And,
First and only excused absence.
and Kate Bauer-Burke was re-elected as a representative from the
let's try that. Thank you, Joanne.
Okay. And a new member. Next item of business is election of officers for the coming year, and I'm going to turn the chair over to the secretary of the meeting, and I assume she'll be
Thank you.
at our meeting in July.
Really-
You said-
Okay,
I'm
so
sorry,
we
Richard, you said
need
it was her first excused absence?
a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary.
And
First and only
And
excused
Anyone
absence.
want to nominate the
And
chair?
Kate Bauer-Burke
I'd like to nominate
was
Richard Driver.
re-elected as a representative from the
Let's
back.
try all in favor? Thank you, Joanne. Or at least willing?
Okay.
Well, we've outvoted him anyway.
Okay.
Item of business is
So
election of
unanimously
officers
elected
for
chair.
the coming year.
Vice chair, do we have
and I'm
any
gonna turn the chair
nominations?
over
I'd like to nominate Bob Sherman.
Second.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Oh, I can't, I guess we'll
Okay,
vote.
so we need.
I do want to note, this is my last year on the Beach
Chair,
Advisory
correct,
Committee. I
vice
term
chair.
out, so thank
Secretary,
you
you'd
very
be a
much.
wonderful vice chair.
What a great way to say goodbye.
Yes,
Yes, thank you.
thank you very
Appreciate that.
much.
Okay. I'd like
And
to
thank you
nominate
for all
Richard
those years,
Driver.
too.
Mr. Chair.
And secretary,
I
all in favor?
nominate Kate Bauer-Burke.
Richard, are you in favor?
Second.
Or at least willing?
We've outvoted
All in
him.
favor? Okay, thank you. We now have
Done.
our three officers. Chair.
All right,
Vice chair, do we
as
have any
usual, we
nominations?
open
I'd
the
like to
meeting to the
nominate Bob
public.
Sherman.
For any comments,
Okay.
questions,
All in favor?
criticisms.
I guess we'll vote. I do want to note, this is my
We
last
have
year on the
an
Beach Advisory.
audience
Correct.
I
tonight.
term out.
Sometimes we only have
Thank you
You'd
very
be a
much.
wonderful vice chair.
Barbara
What a great way to
Barwise
say goodbye.
and
Yes.
Carolyn Sherman.
Thank you for all of
No
that.
questions?
I got very nervous when I And saw the number of
secretary?
cars in the parking lot as it was coming in. I'm like, oh my God.
Okay, well, we'll open the meeting again
All
to
in favor?
the public.
Can I raise,
Thank you. We now have.
Can you raise
our
something
three
from-
officers.
here,
All
or
right,
Get on your
why don't
public
you
hat?
leave it
Bob?
to other new business? Open the
Okay.
meeting to the
Yeah,
public.
we haven't
if you
covered it
would.
in there other
Or
things.
any comments? So
Questions?
there were questions
Criticisms?
about Jeffrey's Way and
Audience tonight, sometimes
as
we
some
only
of
have
you had a recommendation to the town that Jeffries
No
Way,
question.
the
I
local
get very
traffic
nervous when I saw the numbers of
It's
cars in the parking lot.
essentially
Coming in.
residents
Oh my
only.
God.
The town has
We'll
not
open the meeting again to that.
acted on that
Can I-
in
can
the
I raise
sense
some-
of
Can you raise something?
changing the designation.
Can
of
put on
the-
your
Why don't
public
you
hearing?
leave it
But
to
But they
other
have
new business?
notified
Okay.
the
Yeah, we haven't covered it in there.
commercial entities that deliver kayaks
So
and so
there
on,
were
which they are
questions
no longer
about
able
Jeffries Way and
to deliver them on Jeffries
some of
Way
you,
or on any other
we
street.
had a recommendation.
There
to the
is an
town,
ordinance, it
that
goes
Jeffries Way
back
be local traffic
decades,
only.
that
Essentially
prohibits
residents only.
commercial activity
town
on public
has
streets
not
without the
acted
permission
on
of the Board
that
of
in the
Selectmen.
sense
And the
of
kayak
changing
people do
the,
not
the
have
designation
permission,
of the street.
but
they
and they
have
have been notified
notified
by the
the,
chief of police. So
commercial entities
hopefully
that
that
deliver
resolves
kayaks and so
the
on,
problem
that they are no
in
longer,
part. And it was
able,
the kayak deliveries that raised the issue
deliver them on Jeffries Way.
initially. But there's also the problem, it's a narrow street, it's dead end, there's no turnaround. And you have lots of people who pull in there, drop off
prohibits commercial
their kids, their
activity
beach
on
gear,
public streets
and
without the
then
permission
pull
of
into
the
somebody's
Board of Selectmen.
driveway
And the
or
kayak people have to
back
not
out.
permission.
And we
And
have
they
an
have been
increasing
notified
number
by the chief
of
of police.
people that use
So
Jeffries Way
hopefully
to
that
access the beach.
resolves
And
in
given
part,
the 20-some-odd houses that are going to be built off New Bedford Road, the amount of
there's also
traffic
the problem,
will,
it's a narrow street,
pedestrian
it's
traffic
dead
will
end, there's no
increase. So
turnaround.
we'll
And you have lots
monitor
of
it, and
people
I know the Board of
pull in
Selectmen
there,
will
drop
also
off,
monitor it.
their kids,
This
their
is
beach gear,
one
and
answer.
then,
They
pull
did
into somebody's
actually have
driveway,
a meeting at Jeffries Way
back out,
and talked to the
and,
residents
They
there.
have an increasing number
And
of
they're fully
people that
aware
use
of
Jeffries Way
the
to access the
issue.
beach.
Um, There was a question
the
from Jim
Twenty-some-odd
about
houses that are going to be built.
water
off New
testing,
Bedford Road,
and the
not
town,
traffic,
using volunteers,
pedestrian traffic.
is doing the
we'll,
testing every Monday and
monitor it,
Wednesday.
and I know the Board of
And
Selectmen
it's
will
both
also
rivers
monitor
and
it.
the middle of
They-
the
this is,
beach. And
one
the,
answer, they
the
did
results of the
actually
testing,
have a
is
meeting
posted
at
the
Jeffries
next
Way
day.
and talked to the residents.
So that the town is on, is
and they're fully aware
continuing
of the-
that in conjunction with the state's Healthy Beaches.
There was a
And
question
most
from,
of the cost
Jim,
of this, except for volunteers and
testing,
staff from the health
and
department,
the town,
is covered by
using
state
volunteers.
funds.
Richard, a question?
is doing the testing
So if they
every
do a
Monday
test
and
and
Wednesday, and it's
Batson's
both
turns
rivers
out
and the
above,
middle of the-
but Little
beach,
and the Middle
and the,
are within bounds,
results of the
what is
testing,
posted?
is
Well, I-
posted the next day.
You're asking me a little bit more detail
Okay.
than,
Okay.
Is,
So it's
just-
just not, the
I
whole
would
beach isn't
I would
closed because of one river showing?
well, you know, they don't close the
Well,
beach.
isn't called unsafe.
They post it and they will post the Batson and the middle
Separate.
and the.
Okay, Richard, a question? So if they do a test
Um,
and.
when they sent the first
Batson's
notice out,
turns out above,
you know,
but
beaches are
Little
open,
and the
they said
Middle
they're tested at
are,
acceptable levels.
within bounds,
What are
what is
acceptable
posted?
levels? Do we know a range? And
You're
I think
asking me a
it
little
might
bit
be our
more detail
responsibility
than,
to be,
So it's
Just-
not,
I-
the
To
whole
know
beach
some-
isn't
I would-
closed
as members of
because
the
of
Supervisory
one
Council,
river showing.
to get
well,
that.
you know, they
You know, if
don't
water
close the
testing could go from
Isn't called unsafe.
drinking water from 0 to
They
10,
post it and they
And
will post
10 was bad,
the Batson
and you had your water
Seven,
tested, and you got a
Okay.
2 one day, you feel okay, you got an 8, you feel, hey, you're a little nervous. And it's kind of mirrors a little bit what John said, there are differences, in- as we learned from the good presentation.
Tested and accepted.
And I just think that
What are acceptable levels?
we need some
No
numbers.
range, and
Well,
I
we
think
can, we
it
can
might be our
ask them the
responsibility
numbers and it will be for information only.
to know,
because
to get,
the
as
state
members
sets
of the Beach Advisory
the-
Council,
The numbers.
to get that. You know,
That's
if-
okay.
but I want to know how our
Water
numbers
testing
are compared to those numbers.
drinking water
Oh,
from 0 to
that-
10.
That's available. I mean,
Pardon?
they publish that, that's
They do,
available.
okay, on the website?
And you
So
had
we,
more
so twice a week,
accessible.
we can find
Two,
numbers.
You feel okay, you got an
Good.
8,
Yep, yep,
you feel you're a little nervous.
And it kind of mirrors a little bit
Thank
what John said, there are differences,
The,
as we learned from the good presentation.
speed bumps on
just
New
think
Bedford Road
that
were installed just
need some
before
numbers.
Memorial Day.
Well, we can
And
ask
I
for
know
the
there were
numbers
a number of
for
very happy
information
residents of
because
New
the
Bedford
state
Road
said
because
the
of
numbers.
the speeding.
That's okay, but I want to know how our numbers are compared to
So,
those
and
numbers.
this is the
Oh,
second
that-
year, and
that's
it
available.
and
They-
apparently
they
was
publish that.
successful
That's
last
They do,
year.
okay, on the website?
And
So we, so twice a week, we can find numbers.
it,
Good.
at least in that area, Pinnacle Hill to
Thank you.
Kings
The,
Highway, it will
speed bumps,
reduce the speed limit.
on New Bedford
speed,
Road were
the vehicles.
installed,
Unfortunately,
just before
we
Memorial
still
Day.
have a problem from Route 9
There
to
were a
Pinnacle
number
Hill.
of very happy residents
Because
of
it's a straightaway,
Bedford Road because
just
of the
Goose.
speeding there.
All right,
So, and this is the second year, and it
our
apparently
usual,
was successful last year. And
scheduling of minutes is in July and August, we move from here
in that
to the
area,
fire company
Pinnacle
Hill
Hill to
to accommodate
Kings Highway.
more people to
will
attend,
reduce
it's
the
easier to get to.
the
We had a suggestion
unfortunately,
from
we still
Paul
have a
Hogan,
problem
a man by the name of Adam Baucus,
because
who
it's a
is
straightaway.
apparently an expert on sustainable seafood.
All right,
And he's available for our usual July 15th. And just scheduling of minutes is in July and August. Get an indication from board members whether that is a date that works.
To accommodate.
I'm sorry, which one, the
more
July
people
15th?
to
July
attend.
15th.
What day of the week is that?
Monday.
It's a Monday.
Monday.
We had
I
a
cannot make it, but
suggestion
you know
from,
that.
I know that, yes. Paul Hogan,
I'm okay.
man by the name of
that's
Adam
okay with
Baucus,
us. Yeah, I think so,
Good.
yes. yeah.
is
Good with me.
apparently
Yeah,
an
okay.
expert
All
on. All right, then I'll notify Paul, and he can notify
For.
If he can get me the
July
information, I
15th.
put this out a good 3 weeks. I send out the email
Get an
notification,
indication from board
so
members
it will be
whether
a
that is
nice thing
date
to
that
offer if
works.
he can get me the information,
Which one,
or
the
someone,
July
at
15th.
least
What day
a
of the
couple
week
of
is that?
weeks
Monday?
before,
It's a
so I
Monday.
can get it out.
Okay.
Which,
The 15th isn't all that
I
far
know
away,
that.
so,
No, it's not.
okay.
okay.
I think
I-
that's
One
okay.
caveat in terms of the date, I obviously have to check with the
All right, then
chief
I'll
of the fire
notify,
department.
Paul, and he can
And I
notify.
believe that date's,
If he can get me
that
the
date works.
information, I
for the
put
fire
this out.
department.
And you wanna keep this at 6 o'clock rather than 6:30?
Well, that's a question for the board. Any preference? Is it- I mean, we usually have a fairly decent crowd of 50 or so people. Is,
I'm just thinking of dinner times. I mean, people with kids and that, 6 o'clock is a little tough.
one caveat in
I have a
terms of
voice,
the
I
date,
prefer 6:30.
You have a very important voice.
It is.
Sounds like
As long as you keep us on your schedule, we agree.
David, that means you're going to be present.
6:30.
Pay no attention to that man behind the
We made it onto a
Yeah, I-
schedule this time.
My only comment on
Question
the timing is
for the-
just,
for the board.
it's more relates to the amount of time allowed for the speaker, because both the
We
last
usually
summer's
have a
meetings,
fairly
while we had
decent
some very
crowd
interesting
of 50
speakers,
or so
we had a
people.
lot of comment. I
I'm
think
just
it's the
thinking
one
of
time when
dinner time.
a lot of people are either
People
here,
with kids
and
and
there
that,
are,
it's
you know,
6
people were
o'clock.
very interested in parking issues and
I have a
growth
voice,
issues,
I
and
prefer 6:30.
a lot of the, you know. I think it's a very important voice.
Sounds like
As long as you keep us on your schedule, we agree.
Whatever speaker, whatever schedule.
David, that means you're going to be present.
6:30.
Pay no
Not
attention
let
to
them
that
think
man
that they have
behind
an
the
hour.
We made it onto a
Yeah, I
schedule
think
this
so.
time.
My only comment on that, we're gonna have so many interested residents there. More relates to the amount of time, give plenty of time for people to.
Well, there were a couple of very hot issues last summer, which I think,
We had a
you know,
lot
have
of
been
comment. I think it's
pretty
the
much
one time
resolved
when
as of
a lot
this
of people
summer.
are
So
either
we'll see.
here. I wouldn't be surprised though if we still, I mean, I'm
Oh,
not sure, some
for
of them
sure.
have been helped,
Yeah.
certainly. But I think that, I think it's the one time that a lot of people have a chance to come, and we certainly had the biggest turnout at both of those summer
Definitely.
meetings. And I'd like to see us allow not perhaps as much time almost for discussion, debate, whatever, comment, taking comments, listening. This is a chance to give people a chance who maybe not otherwise be able
Well,
to
there
be
were
here
a
at
couple
these.
of here very
Can we,
hot
can we
issues
hold the
last summer,
presentation
which,
to a half hour, 15 minutes for questions?
pretty
And,
much
Yeah, I
resolved
think
as
at
of
least
this
keep
summer.
it
think
in that
try to do
range.
something like
Yeah,
that, is that-
and as usual,
Oh,
I'm not
oh,
sure, some
for
of
sure.
what we've done last
Yeah.
year, and it seemed to But I work well, think which that- is actually adjourn
I
the
think it's the
meeting
one
before
time
the speaker
that a lot of
starts.
people have a chance to
So
come.
we don't have to
Certainly
try
not the
and
biggest turnout.
take down everything that the speakers are saying for the minutes, because I think
the
if
speaker
people
after
see,
the-
reference it and people can go in the
much
minutes
time
and people
almost
can
for
go to the town
Discussion, debate, whatever.
website and
comment,
if they
taking
want to actually
comments,
watch the
listening.
speaker,
This is
so.
a chance to
We,
get
we
people-
try to hold the meeting,
Maybe not
the
otherwise
business
be able to be
portion
here at
to
these.
a
Can
relatively
we
short
hold the
period.
presentation
It
to a half
depends,
hour,
though,
15 minutes for questions?
issues that
Yeah, I
are brought up
think
by
at least
people
keep
in
it
public.
in that
Try to do
range.
something like
But
that.
yes,
And-
it,
and
it
as usual,
it seems
do
to have worked out in,
what we've done
with,
last year, and it seemed
the
to work well, which is
presentations on the
actually
fire,
adjourn the meeting before the speaker
and,
starts.
Is there a downside to doing the
To try
presentation
and
first and
take down
then allow the
everything
meeting
that
to
the
go as
speaker is
long as it
saying
needs
for
to
the
go?
minutes, because I
So
think
the
if
speaker
people
after,
reference it and
as
people
opposed to
can
having
go
to cut it
in the
off in
minutes
order
and
to-
people can go
There
to the
there isn't if the
website. and
speaker
they wanna
and
actually
Paul
watch
got a
the
clear idea,
Well, I'd have
try
to-
to
an
hold
emergency, you know, this is it.
the business
We got
portion.
25 minutes to speak and 10 minutes for
relatively
questions and,
short period.
I can be, I'll be a timekeeper, he'll be,
Issues
yeah, no, I'm saying,
yeah,
there
as long
isn't,
as it's understood, yeah.
But yes,
Going back to the
seems
issue
to
though,
have
I
worked out
prefer
in-
that the speaker and the
with,
presentation should be something that has to be
fire,
included in the
and
minutes, and
Is
that's
there a
why
downside to
it
doing
somewhat
the
works better to
presentation
have
first
the sort of business
allow the
meeting and
meeting
the
to go as
period
long
for
as it needs to go?
commentary and whatever, be the actual
opposed to
meeting
having to
be
cut it
first,
off
and then we
in order
adjourn the meeting and we go
There
into the
isn't if the
speaker.
Well, you could have the
speaker
presentation and
and
then
Paul
start
got
the
a
meeting.
clear
We
idea.
could,
So
An
that-
emergency, you know, this is
A
it.
lot of times
Yeah,
the,
25
when the
minutes to speak,
presentation
10
is over,
minutes for
people
I'll be a
are,
timekeeper.
you know,
You'll-
they're in a
sure,
hurry to
sure.
leave.
Yeah, no, I'm saying,
Well, I
Yeah,
understand.
as long as it's
but,
understood, yeah.
My preference is
Going
to
back to the issue though, I
have the
prefer that
business
the speaker
portion
and the
and then
presentation
we done
should
with
be
it.
something that has to be
We have
included.
done that.
Last time it really
And that's
dragged
why
on, poor gal
somewhat
didn't
works
start
better
until
to have
8:30,
sort of
I
business
believe, I
meeting
had it
and
right.
period
Might have been
for
closer to
commentary
9.
and
So
whatever.
why don't
But,
we,
uh,
why don't we try and
the actual
discipline
meeting
ourselves
be
as to how
first, and
long
then
we're
we
gonna
adjourn
try
the
and have
meeting
a
and we
meeting?
go into the
But you
speaker.
can't, people have things to say.
Well,
and then
I
start the
understand,
meeting.
but,
We could.
So that's
well,
that.
You know, a lot of
And
times.
this is, we're doing this at
when the
Goose Rocks to
presentation
give
is
people
over,
a chance to have something to say. That's
Here-
why,
Here's,
that's why
here's-
they're coming.
here's a compromise, John, and that is
Well, I
we have the
understand.
business meeting, and if
My
there are
preference is to
issues that
have the business portion
extended
and then
discussion,
done with it.
we adjourn the
We've done
meeting,
Last time
have
it
the
really
speaker,
dragged on. Poor gal
and
didn't
then
start till
reconvene
8:30,
the
I
meeting.
believe.
see how serious they really
Might
are.
be closer to 9.
Yeah, and if they're
Why don't we-
serious,
why don't
they'll
we
stay.
try and discipline ourselves as to how long we're.
Talk to whoever's obtaining, Paul in this case, obtaining
Have things to
the
say.
speaker
Well,
about
I understand.
keeping the remarks and hopefully keeping even
know,
the questions
This is-
within
we're
the
doing
half
this at
hour or
Goose Rocks to
45
give
minutes
people a
max.
chance to have
Yeah.
something to say. That's
So
why-
is
that's why
it the
they're
preference to
compromise,
start the
John,
meeting
that
at
is
6:30 as a business meeting? And
With
if
this in
there
mind, I
are
started at
issues
6.
that have an
This
extended.
changes the calculus as far as.
We adjourn the meeting, have
Otherwise,
the
it's gonna be a
speaker,
late evening.
and then
Well,
reconvene the
I'd
meeting.
like to defer to Dave too, because
Ah, fair.
Yes, if they're serious, in terms of July and
talk
August,
to
if we
whoever's
started
obtaining,
at
Paul in this
6,
case,
is
obtaining
it really a
speaker
problem for
about
you?
At
keeping
the Goose Rock Speaks
remarks,
Fire Station?
hopefully
Yes.
keeping even the
All right,
questions.
well, then
within
that's
I
the
can get
half
my son
hour
at rec at
or 45
5:30.
minutes max.
Okay. So is it the preference?
All right,
to start the
so,
meeting? 6:30 is a business.
6:30, and we'll, and I think we
This in
should
mind,
well,
I started at 6.
intend to basically
This
truncate our
changes,
meeting
this changes
by
the calculus.
7:15 or 7:30 to get the speaker out.
Right, it's gonna be a late
We should
evening.
just, we should sort of make that
Right.
principle
I'd
when we
like to
start the
defer to
meeting, and
Dave,
so
too,
people can, if they want to talk, they can talk, and if they want to say, no, it's-
Dave, in
Okay. Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
July and August, if
Um,
we started at 6,
August meeting.
really a problem for you?
I have one thing that's come up. We've had some dialogue. We have a group called the Cheerby Gatherings. I mean, people who want to socialize. We're always there for the opening day
All
of the
right,
tides.
so,
And
6:30.
we go and we have a happy hour for an hour for a while. I think we should. And we've had some contact as our group with UNE. If University of New England is interested in working to provide
Right.
opportunities for people to take classes or to do some things, They have that. And we thought about bringing in someone from UNE. We've met with
August meeting.
someone who happens to be in the fundraising area, but he's sure as he could have someone who's not there to raise funds.
We've had some dialogue.
Tell us
We
the
have a group called the,
opportunities.
Cheerby Gatherers.
But to bring in UNE a little bit, and just
Socialize
having someone come and say,
over
look,
here
here are some of the
Dave the
opportunities.
Tides,
We want to be a
and
good
we go
neighbor,
and we have a
we're
happy
friends,
hour
we're
for
close.
an hour for
I know that Biddeford Pool has done this, and they've had some
we've
successful
had some contact as our
opportunities presented by
with
UNE. And so,
If
one of the
University of New
things we'd
England
like
is
to do in
interested
August,
in
and maybe it's the
looking
only
to
thing,
provide
depending on
opportunities
what
for
you all
people
decide,
to take classes
is
or
that we
do
would bring in someone from UNE
They have that.
and give you just the
And
big
we thought
picture,
about
here's what
bringing in
happens, here's how
someone
you
from
could work,
UNE.
here are some of
We've
the
met
courses,
with,
here's the list, whatever,
somebody who happens
and
to be
basically
in the
put it on the
fundraising
table
area,
for
but
us,
he's sure
should
as
people
he
want
could
to
have
do it.
someone who's not there to raise
They've been very
funds
good
to
neighbors,
tell us
they're
the
interested in
opportunities.
being more good neighbors.
But to
and so
bring in
they're-
UNE a little bit and just having someone come and say, look,
I
here are
think
some
that
of the
sounds- I mean,
opportunities. We want to be a good neighbor.
Pretty interesting. I'd
We're
love to
friends,
know
we're
what's
close.
available at
I
UNE
know the
and
Biddeford Pool
interact
has
with them
done
more.
this, and they've had some
And
successful,
would that, it sounds like that might be
opportunities presented by UNE. And so,
reasonably
one of the things we'd like to do
short
in August, and maybe it's
presentation?
the
I don't
only
think
thing
it's gonna be
depending on
long, and
what
we
you
could
all
probably
decide.
tell him to, he's got X
is that
number of
we would
minutes
bring
and
in
let
someone
him
from
Okay.
UNE,
decide just how
give you
much
just the big
time
picture,
it is.
here's what happens, here's
Because
how
the
you
other
work,
thing
here
that
are
was a
some of the courses,
possibility
here's the
that
list,
I
whatever,
was gonna
and basically
propose,
put it on the
but
table
I'm
for us.
happy to
should
defer to
people want
UNE, is,
They've been very good neighbors,
we've
they're
had
interested
a
in
great
being more
speaker
good
from
neighbors,
Heart
and
of
so we're-
Biddeford at another organization I'm
I think
part
that
of.
sounds, I mean,
And,
pretty
well, it's not
interesting. I'd love to
about
know
the
what's
beach
available
per
at
se
UNE
and
it's,
interact with
you
them
know,
more.
sort of UNE sort of-
It's
and
about
that
what's going
sounds like
on in
that
our
might
next door
be
neighbor, and it has changed
reasonably
significantly, and maybe not
short
everybody is as
presentation?
aware
I don't
of
think it's gonna be long,
the,
and we could probably
the
tell him
efforts to
that
bring
he's
that
got X
city
number
back,
of minutes and
that
let
city
him
back from
decide
Trash
just how
City
much, time
to
it is.
what I've read recently
the other
describes
thing
it
that
as
was
the
a
new
possibility
it
that
city,
I was
with the
gonna
amazing
propose,
number of
but I'm
restaurants and
happy to
business
defer
and
to
shops
UNE
and
is,
businesses and
we've
redevelopment
had
up there.
a great
I mean, that's
speaker
certainly
from
something
Heart
we
of
could put off
Biddeford
till next summer.
at
It's still gonna
another
be growing and
organization I'm
everything
part of.
there.
And,
I've seen
while
her
it's not about
presentation.
the
It's the
beach per
executive director
se,
of Heart of Biddeford
it's,
who
you know,
made the
sort of UNE.
presentation.
So
I'd say it's about
what's going on
at
in
least a
our
half
next door
hour,
neighbor,
and it is,
with,
you know, she could probably shorten it up, not have a slide on
significantly,
all
and
different
maybe
kinds of
not everybody is
businesses,
as aware
but,
of
I mean, the history of it, I
the,
think, is interesting,
efforts to bring
too,
that
of
city
how
back
the
that
city
city
was
back
a very
from
vibrant
Trash
city, and
City
then kind
to
of slid
what I've
downhill
read
when the
recently
some of the
described
mills
as the new
closed.
it city.
So I,
The amazing
I
number
have
of
not
restaurants
talked
and
with her yet,
business and
but I
shops and businesses
tend to think
and
somebody from there would be
redevelopment up
interested
there.
in
I mean, that's
meeting,
certainly
so
something we
I'm
can put off till
willing to
next
defer
summer.
to,
It's still
I'd
gonna
love
be
to find
growing
out
and
what UNE
everything
has
there.
got available too.
I've
So-
seen her
What's the
presentation.
preference of the
It's
board,
executive
and
director
maybe
of
we
Heart of
could
Biddeford's
hear
presentation.
from
I'd
the,
say it's about
public.
at least a half hour.
I have a third
You know, she
suggestion.
could probably shorten it up, not have a slide on all kinds of businesses. But, I mean, the history of it, I think, is interesting, too, of how the city.
I have a
was
third
a vibrant
suggestion.
city and then-
By August, the Meadow Woods Preserve should have a presentation,
So I
video
I have
presentation
not
put together,
talked with
which
her
is
yet,
going to be 20
but I
minutes,
tend to think
and
somebody
thought
from
maybe
there
people would
be
like to
interested
see
in
that also.
meeting.
What is,
So
what is
I'm
the Otis?
willing to
Do you
defer
want to
to
tell us what that
the
is?
Meadowwood Preserve.
What is it?
What, the Meadow Woods?
So-
What's the
Now?
preference of the board?
Meadow
no.
Woods Preserve
Yeah.
is 50 acres that the Kennebunkport Conservation Trust purchased off Route 9. It's on the Wolf side of Route 9, headed towards Biddeford, about 200 feet.
I have a third
It
suggestion.
connects
By
153
August,
of
the
landlocked
Meadow Woods Preserve
acres
should have a
that
presentation,
Kennebunk Conservation
video
Trust
presentation
also
put
owns.
together,
So
which is gonna be
we'll
20
now have a
minutes.
200-acre
And thought maybe people would
preserve.
like to see that also.
And the goal
What
of the
is the
preserve is to actually
Tell us
preserve
what
the
that
land.
is.
They are
What is
going
it?
to
Meadow Woods
restore what was,
Now?
there's a word for it, but it's damaged, where the land had been damaged. So they're going to restore a pond, they're going to have the running water, they're going to put in pollinator pathways for the birds and the bees. They're going to put in, for me, ADA compliant trails so I can walk in the woods and we all can walk in the woods, old or people with baby carriages and things like that. And it won't be just a straight line. It's going to be, you can walk a quarter a mile, a half a mile, a mile. We're going to set it up so blind people can walk. There's a way that it's done for blind people. The goal is also to have a cabin so people can sit on a porch. The land is beautiful. It isn't beautiful to be built on, but it has ledges and water and pools. And then on the far left end, they're going to have a fenced-in area for dogs.
Okay, Thank you. You can save the details for the presentation as to doing it now. Thank you very much.
I did know, thank you very much. That's
Carol,
what
do
the
they-
Meadow Woods Preserve is.
Sounds
Do they
about
have a master plan for it?
It is being drawn up right now, yes. We will have a
And-
master plan.
And who would you suggest? Would it be Tom Bradbury or somebody else?
Well, I don't know. I would like, Richardson and Associates is a company that's drawing up the plans, and I think they should be there. I mean, there's many people involved, the DEP and all the civil engineers and all the environmentalists, but I think the
And that's going to be a wonderful resource for Goose Rocks. I think
I
it'd be an
think so,
excellent
too.
time to showcase it, to be honest with you.
well, I thought that was
Sounds
my
like a plan to
suggestion.
me.
You know, there's no reason we can't have a brief educational in September as well. I mean, there's still a lot of people there, so if we talked about this, if UNE wanted to come in September with the start of their school year and their programs,
Yeah. Or see how the
What do-
timing goes, maybe we could have two things.
That's
So
what I was
that-
thinking,
just
whether
leave time.
we could do two, if you're saying yours is about Meadowwoods might be in the 20 minutes, just to get people alerted to what's happening
Yeah.
and, you know, some excitement and support going, and UNE doesn't sound to me like it needs to be a really
That could be
long,
condensed too.
it could be condensed
I
perhaps
think they'll
to-
come with flyers and stuff too,
Yeah,
that
that sounds great.
augment their
That might be a-
presentation.
Bob, there are other things going on at UNE other than educational programs that I hope they would talk about if they come. We know a couple at Biddeford Pool who routinely go there for dinner or lunch with the students. And they got some kind of, and then, I understand the swimming has been discontinued, or they used to have swimming pool access. So if they come, I'd like to see more than just what they're doing in education sense, although that's important, it's good. And they certainly will come, we should all be aware, with a piece of paper to get our names and addresses. We shouldn't fool
So
ourselves.
do you want a motion on that, or are we just gonna?
No, well, let's see whether anybody else in the public has a comment. I mean, there've been three suggestions: Biddeford, UNE, and
Meadowwoods.
the
Meadowwoods.
Meadowwoods. Anyone want to comment?
Don't be
Do you
shy,
have a-
folks.
Do you have a preference?
Well, I love the Meadowworks. I mean, this is an initial, we're on the ground floor of that, and if you
Yeah.
can spark some people, you're gonna get more involvement and more excitement. I mean, you're gonna need people for that, so I love that presentation. And if UNE was short, I also would like, as a potential almost here person, I'd like to know how to keep myself busy. So if they can do a brief presentation, unless something huge comes up in August for the committee, I don't see why you can't offer two.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
think
part
you're
of
right.
part of our mission should be, how do we
Okay.
benefit the community as well?
So, Bob, can you contact the person from UNE?
Yes.
And
Do you know the person from Meadowwood by chance? Could you arrange some? Just asking.
I hear about it periodically. There's a lot of traffic.
Carol, could you tell us, who and when is their master plan going to be, at least in a condition that they can show it publicly?
Well, I think we get to see it on the 24th of June, so I think July 17th is the day that they have said that it's going to be available for the public.
Okay,
So August is good.
So sometime in August, and any preference in August for dates? Or, let's talk about the middle of August. Are there any dates that do not work for any of you? You're going to be back, Joanne?
Oh, yes, I am.
Yeah, okay.
Quick looking.
I don't know of any conflict.
I don't have a calendar, so.
Preference, Monday, Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Free, yes, right on. No more
Yeah.
Mondays.
Yeah,
No
no,
more Mondays.
I know, that was my fault, and I apologize.
It's kind of fun now, you don't have to.
So you want to aim for like the 14th?
Well, that's
Close
exactly a
enough.
month after July, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Is that
So,
a Wednesday?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, I do.
Wednesday the 14th.
8/14 is a Wednesday?
Yeah.
And we're talking about UNE,
Combination of UNE and Meadowwoods.
yeah,
At 6:30.
At 6:30, yes.
At the risk of appearing too sanctimonious, may I inject a religious note?
A religious note? I don't think so in a
For
public meeting.
anyone at the beach who is a Catholic and still goes to mass, that evening of the 14th is the day before the Feast of the Assumption. It's fine with me, you know, but I just want to make sure that we all of a sudden, we don't turn around and say, you know, we would have had, have some people come at you saying, you know, why did you schedule it then?
Tuesday the 13th.
That's fine.
Anybody have an issue with Tuesday the 13th?
I do.
Okay. That's one down.
Monday the 12th. I know Mondays don't work. Oh, God, is that the
Well,
day
you know,
he's gonna
what,
do that?
there's,
I
we've
mean, we
had
can have
it,
it the 14th, I just don't want, you know, I don't know, I know a lot of people at the beach will go that evening before the feast day, so they can
What, they're
not
not
get up
tired
early
for the
morning to do
feast?
it, you know? Pardon?
So they're not tired for the feast?
No, just so they do the mass the evening before instead
Oh,
of,
okay, I see.
sometimes
we've
instead of
had-
that day. I don't, well,
we've had an issue of a problem in terms of the representative from the Board of Selectmen being able to meet, to get to our meetings. Mondays apparently have been a bad time. And I do not know who is going to be our representative from the Board of Selectmen. I don't think it is going to be Stu Barwise. And I don't know whether Sheila has, in the past, been the representative, but she cannot do Mondays. So let's try and, let's see whether, let's do Wednesdays, and I'm not sure, well,
I'm pretty much okay for any day
Yeah.
that week.
That's okay.
So,
yep, all right.
I'm just saying.
no,
Okay.
I understand the point.
All right, so we're aiming for August 14th, 6:30 meeting, and two presentations, and we have the July 15th, which is a Monday, but in order for us to have a quorum, we're gonna have to do it that Monday.
Well, I just said I can't make it on Wednesday,
And
so,
Joanne can't,
oh, you can't do either, okay,
Yeah.
on Wednesday, either one.
Either one.
That's right.
that entire week, I'm
That's right.
she's leaving
Oh,
the
that's
11th,
right.
so,
Yeah.
all right, so, any other business? I know that you had something, Bob, and Jim, you had something that you,
You know, Bob mentioned to me something which I'll go ahead and mention, but most of you maybe realize, but things that were fulminating in Augusta for the last 2 years, and there's all sorts of discussion going on unrelated to the activity the town has as a lawsuit against the people at the beach, in which there were 3 different committees in Augusta that were looking at changing the laws of the state of Maine so that the whole coastline up to the high water mark would be owned by the state of Maine. There were 3 bills, one of them survived, and finally my wife is the one who alerted me about it, because I usually don't pay much attention to Augusta, but and she did because she's a realtor and she was getting mailings on it from the Maine Real Estate Association, and they were opposing it because it took away basically the rights of private property and undermined historically the system of deeds for the whole state. And it went up before the Senate, and the Senate overwhelmingly defeated it, but then had to go to the House of Representatives last Monday, and that was overwhelmingly defeated. So for this term, it's not happening. But Bob thought I ought to just mention it, that's been going on. That's a fulminating activity that probably will continue.
I don't see how it can happen at all, because if the Supreme Court decisions, the Maine Supreme Court decisions are not changed, the beachfront owners own the portion of the beach from the low high tide to the high tide. And without compensation, you can't take their property. I mean, if it's
They were
considered,
describing it as a taking, you're right, you know.
if it's considered their property,
Yeah.
then you have to pay for it. Now, it may be in an appraisal, would be cheap for each individual property, but if you're talking about the whole coastline, I cannot see the legislature or the governor approving it and then budgeting for it.
Yeah, and the towns wouldn't want to lower our real estate taxes for the land that we've lost. And, which is a source of income for them, so I mean, it's, you know,
Well,
but you know what? You
they
see
would-
what's going on in this country, and this is an apolitical remark, and you sometimes scratch your head and say, what will happen in the future?
Well, I don't, if you look at the assessments, there really is not very much of the beachfront property owners' assessments that's attributed to the high tide, low tide.
Any at all. I don't think there's any.
No.
Yeah.
So, but that doesn't mean in a taking that they won't be entitled to compensation. But we're still waiting for an opinion from the New Jersey Supreme Court on a current case. It was argued.
New Jersey?
No, for the
Maine?
Maine.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, you said New Jersey Supreme Court.
Back in New
Sorry,
Jersey.
I was like,
Yeah.
maybe there's
That's
something
where I
interesting
practiced law for a
happening
long
there.
time, I guess,
That's a thought.
slipping back. It was argued, I believe, May 15th, something like
Yes,
that.
you're right.
And we'll see a written opinion at some point in time. It's a tour de force for them to go through the opinion from the trial judge, because that's like 280 pages, and if you're not attuned to real estate and appraisals and deeds and what have you, it's probably really boring reading, except for the conclusion.
And Richard, I have one other one. This is a question from someone at the beach who knows I'm on the advisory council. What input does this committee have, should it have or should it not have, on this whole parcel discussion of the 48 acres and what happens to that? Is there any need for us to have an input? Do we have anyone officially representing BAC at that? And I was asked that question, I don't know the answer.
Well, occasionally we forget that this is an advisory board.
I never forget it.
You never forget it. Well, some of our members on occasion have forgotten it, and I don't see how, if you look at the ordinance that created this committee, I don't see how we have, except as residents of Kennebunkport, have any real say, to attend the meetings and
That's what I
comment
said,
on it.
just as residents, basically.
Yes, that's my opinion. I don't think, we're not in the same situation as the planning board or the housing group.
Or abutters. I mean, the abutters, those organizations will go, but obviously Goose Rocks is not an abutter.
Bob?
Yes, I have three things. To back up Jim, the piece of legislation that was defeated was, if you want to look it up, it was LD 1323, in case you're wanting to go see what the state of Maine was looking at with respect to taking ownership of the state for the beachfront. That's what was defeated. If you want to look up, you can do that. The second item is I wanted to talk about the cleanup, the beach cleanup this year. This year we put the beach cleanup on May 11th. It's a really nice day. It happened to be the day before Mother's Day. And we didn't have very many people come to join us. Now, here's how it worked out. The town put this really nice big dumpster right down by the pump station, just as you come down Dyke Road and turn right. And we got some people, not very many, and we got a lot of stuff off the beach, but there wasn't that much. I personally have picked up lobster traps over the year, and those went back, and that all worked out fine. But the dumpster sat there for 3 more weeks. And everybody who came down to check on their house said, oh, God, I can finally get rid of these old chairs I don't want. And the dumpster was stinking full by the time it sat there for 3 weeks. So it wasn't a bad strategy. I just want to say to the town, that there's nobody here from the town, thank you for that, because it really worked out well. The hard part was that we were a little short of staff, and we really didn't get as much coverage as we would have liked. And so I just want to say that if we do just a slightly better job of making sure we get the word out that we'd like some help, it would be very good and helpful to do that.
I have to wonder if the date was part of your issue.
I think the date was part of the issue.
It was the day before Mother's Day,
Yes.
and
Yes, it was a clear question, you're exactly right. So we'll be maybe a little more careful when we do that as well.
And also, and I don't recall the year before, it seems early.
Early, yeah.
It was
Yeah.
very early.
I think that's also true. We didn't have very many people here. It was still just the Winthrop people. We didn't have anybody else.
Right.
So, yeah. Okay, good, thank you.
The other
Yes,
thing
yes,
on that, I
yes.
know in previous years, I remember there being more of a, like we had some refreshments and things like that, and I don't know, I mean, we don't have to turn it into, you know, the beach picnic or the beach, but it did seem like there was a little bit more, maybe that gives a little bit more of a sense of,
Yeah.
and I'm happy certainly to work on something like that.
Okay.
I wouldn't know a weed from a beach rose, so you're letting me loose out there, and it was a pretty sad thought, but happy to do things like that. So that might be something to, it seemed like we got more
Yeah.
people in prior years,
Yeah.
whether it's the date, whether
Yeah.
the timing,
Okay.
or even throwing in a little coffee and donuts or something.
Which leads me into the third thing. When I went to the beach conferences, by the way, I just have to say this. This beaches conference that was down in Kittery last week, it is the best one I've ever attended, for what it's worth, in case you're interested in this. And one of the things we looked at, there was a session on beach cleaning. I went and sat. You know what they said? Well, get yourself like the Boy Scouts and make it their project and help them participate, or help the kids in school, or get a group, or get a church, or get the Lions or the Rotarians or somebody who want to be participative in helping to support. And I said, okay, great. My point is, it doesn't necessarily have to be just the people from Goose Rocks who have an interest. You know, everybody in Kennebunkport loves Goose Rocks Beach, and we're delighted to be able to keep it open for them. But helping us to keep it clean would be good. So we may reformat that a little bit next year. And then that takes me into the frequency of testing, to the Maine Beach Conference. And this conference was superb. It's my first one that I've gone to so many events this year, but the one that caught me the most was the actions that are going on to define beach testing, first of all. For example, water testing is going along the coast. I'm sure you know this. Turns out that the ocean's becoming more acidic. Now they're studying what the increase in acidic nature of the beach, of the ocean is going to do on fish life, shell life, and so forth. So these things are all being thought about, talked about, and worked on. And if you have an interest in any of those kind of things, I strongly recommend it. It's a $60 bill, and it's there all day long. You get a free lunch, and you hear some very good speakers and things like that of the nature. So I just wanted to say that I thought the beach conference was terrific this year, and I'd recommend it to people if you'd like to do it. It's called the Maine, the Beaches Conference for Maine and our Maine and New Hampshire beaches and coast. And the last thing I'll say is this: when they do the profiles, we have people who work and go out and measure our beach every month to look at what's going on to the sand and the migration of the sand. Goose Rocks Beach is one of God's gifts. We have eastern Goose Rocks and western Goose Rocks, and the nature of those rocks would appear to be very important in keeping our sand right here at Goose Rocks. It doesn't go down to Wells, it doesn't go up to Saco where they got problems, it stays locally. And some of the beaches that tout themselves as beaches, and even the New Hampshire beaches, they got to bring sand in from someplace, dump it down and say, well, here's our sand. You know, we are blessed here, guys, at Goose Rocks Beach, so help us take care of it. It's a good thing. So, thank you.
The person we had a year or so ago from the state talking about profiling our beach, one of the comments he made is that the sand at Goose Rocks is unique, and that there's no place we can get sand to truck in. So,
Thank goodness.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Again, I
yeah.
think you'll have to sloshes back.
Any other issues from the board? before I open it again to the public?
Nope.
No? Oh, that would be great.
Oh. How many people want, do we have to take a vote on this? How many people?
No, we're not going to take a vote, Bob.
Sorry. Working hard at keeping that marriage going.
We voted for different people too, and because he wants UNE and I want the preserve, it's okay, we'll work it out. I have two things. One is the solstice party, which is on Saturday, June 29th for everybody. And you bring appetizers for 6 people and something to drink. And that's going to be down by Jeffrey's Way, by the Wassermans. And 2 is the Piping Plover and Lease Turn Report. It's a really good year for the Piping Plovers so far. We have 84 adult pairs. Last year we had 68, and that's more than double what we had a decade ago.
Where is we? I'm sorry, is it?
We,
Goose
the
Rock?
state of Maine.
Thank you.
We, the state of Maine. We at Goose Rocks Beach have 5 adult pairs, and we have now 10 chicks. 3 were hatched today. So we are doing very well. We also have volunteers that you may recognize this year because we wear these really attractive green vests. You may notice how lovely they are. You look like you're Shrek. But we have a vest and we have a lanyard, and we are there for information and education only. Enforcement is done by the CSO and police officers, and we're very happy to be there. I think that's all I have to say. Question?
Where are the nests that either have eggs still or have hatched? Because I'm thinking of the one I see the most is the one at Dingy Point.
That just hatched.
It did, so
Yep.
they haven't put an enclosure around it at
No,
all?
they,
Okay.
no, they're not going
We saw
to.
the adults there, and then I wasn't sure whether they decided to relocate or what, when we went
No,
by
they-
the other night.
They
That's
toughed it out,
exciting.
and they made it, so there are 3 little chicks running all around Dingy
that's
Point.
Aren't they the
So
furthest east?
I believe that they're the furthest
I
east
would
of the
think,
ones, yeah.
That's
The
right.
other
the-
7 are down what I call Bayless's Spit, which is on the river side of
Batson.
the Spit, down by Batson River.
Well, that's even more exciting because,
the
well, of course, the dogs
riverside.
can't be on the beach mostly during the
Yeah.
day, but I can't tell you the number of owners I went up to
I know.
several weeks back and said, who had their dogs, of course, off leash,
Mhm.
and said, just not to be a policeman here, but it's a
But-
very big find, and there are little birds running around,
Yeah.
and they're very endangered, so
Yeah, they
I'm
are.
delighted here we now have some chicks there.
Yeah. I'm thrilled, so.
Yeah.
They're very good neighbors, they're cute, so.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Questions, comments?
Yep.
I just was wondering if I was down at the Beaches Conference too, and I talked to the guys from Ransom Engineering, which are doing the survey of the FEMA situation. I was wondering if any of you have heard anything. They said that they had heard back from the feds, and they said they didn't have any questions or anything, and they might be a ruling coming up fairly soon. So
Is this on the
I was
floodplain?
wondering if any of you had heard anything beyond that.
Is this on
I
the
haven't.
floodplain?
We obviously should check with Verna Gilliam. He's the one who is in touch with it. Anybody have any dialogue about that? I mean, obviously, for those on Kings Highway and the streets perpendicular to Kings Highway, the proposal from the feds has them all in a flood zone, and that has implications in terms of flood insurance, and
And it's not just down that far.
No.
It comes up a lot farther to what we would have considered the back parts of Goose Rocks
I
that.
think it's all of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's-
yeah, it's moving. I mean, I know what, in terms of my property, that, because I border on the marsh, and I could see that over the years, the water from the marsh and the freshwater wetlands sort of are merging and moving up. So that's, obviously, that's not attributable to climate change or anything like that, but, yes.
We're not gonna go there, of course not. Nothing. cycles.
Anything
All
else tonight? If not, a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. I'd like to
All in
thank the-
favor?
I'd like to thank the
Aye.
people that came and provided comments to this.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.